Alright guys, I'm going to show you why you guys want to watch the Gigabyte video. Thunderbolt insanity over here, motherboards with PLX chips out their ears, case mods, case mods, case mods, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. We've got the G1 Gaming stuff over there, and we've got some workstation stuff. Did I mention we have some beautiful case mods? How about that view? Ooh, I think that's where we're staying, right over there in that hotel. Got our high-end desktop stuff over here. Let's just get over to Wendell with the insanity that's happening with this giant workstation.
So you guys always complain that we don't ever cover enough workstation stuff. Well, here it is. This is the top end pretty much. The only thing you can swap out for this is the Broadwell E. It's a Broadwell E i7. You can put in a Broadwell E Xeon. But that's $10,000 of graphics cards, a RAID 10 disk configuration, custom loop cooler, 64 or 128 gigabytes of RAM, the Intel 750 SSD. This is a rendering beast. So it's queued up right now with the one of the I think Autodesk rendering demos of one of the rendering things, and it also has an external Thunderbolt 3 PCIe SSD to show you how fast it is to copy files from one place to another. So we've got this rendering thing. It can render 3 4K streams in real time. Basically, that's what $10,000 of workstation graphics gets you. They didn't have a setup for real-time video rendering, like what we would do with After Effects or Premiere or whatever. But check out the read and write speeds on this. 3 gigabytes per second read, 605 megabytes per second write. That's on the mechanical disk array. 2.3 gigabytes per second read, a gigabyte per second write on the Intel 750 SSD. Holy crap! This is the X99 Design Air motherboard. There's also a Z170 Design Air motherboard, but this thing is built for connectivity, it's built for interface speed, it's built for a ton of peripherals. And so this is workstation class graphics. This is what you need for a workstation class machine with workstation graphics.
Speaking of graphics, let's take a look at this little box right here. This is slightly slimmer but a little taller than MSI's Vortex machine, but it is something entirely different. It's a graphics card with a power supply. Right there.
Graphics card in the box?
Yes, and it looks like you could have virtually any graphics card on the market because it's more than 400 millimeters of space there. So tons of room for graphics. And then on the top here, you have plenty of room for cable routing, so you don't have an ugly mess of cables. It's actually quite sleek, and there's a handle. That's the beauty of the entire thing, a handle. So as you can see here, they have a DVI port plugged in. That's one of the small little dinky DVI cables, not one of the dual link cables like you get with the 1440p monitors and whatnot. But even those will fit in here. Plenty of room for all your DisplayPort cables, and then a nice area here so you can fit things in and out. Even the wider DisplayPort cables should be able to fit through there.
It's Thunderbolt 3 in and out. And so that means you can daisy chain these things together according to the USB 3, the Intel Alpine Ridge, basically Thunderbolt 3 standard. And this will actually work with a laptop that features Thunderbolt 3 through USB Type-C connectors. It doesn't have to go through a desktop. The demo system that they've got here is a Z170 system. They have completely maxed out the available bandwidth on the Z170. They've got a 3 SSD RAID 0, and that's the Intel NVMe SSDs, 1 PCI Express and 2 U.2. And they have absolutely maxed it out. We're talking 3.6 gigabytes per second read, 2.8 gigabytes per second write. They've also got that hooked up to an external PCI Express Thunderbolt 3 SSD on the side over here. They've got the Gigabyte custom enclosure, and they can copy a 4 gigabyte file to that external SSD in 2 seconds.
That's ridiculous. Just a reminder, we're talking 40 gigabits of bandwidth on the Thunderbolt 3. And here, as you can see, they've got everything saturated, just insanity going around here. The speeds that we're seeing, and right there we're talking about that 3600 right there. That's kind of ridiculous. Now we see all these different accessories here for Thunderbolt. Look at all these. A lot of really handy stuff here, especially.
I might have drooled on that one. That one I might have drooled on because it's 10 gigabit Ethernet through Thunderbolt 3.
Now, they're doing a lot of interesting things with their Thunderbolt 3 and USB.
I think a lot of normal people will probably also be interested in this thing. This is Thunderbolt 3 in and out. Now, pay special attention because you've got DisplayPort 1.2 and HDMI here, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Does that mean I'm going to have to use the iGPU? No, not at all. And we're going to show you on those motherboards in just a second. You've also got a ton of connectivity.
Yeah, I love the fact we have PS2. I want this for my laptop.
Memory card, more USB 3.1 super speed, and your memory card reader.
I think I'm going to get like 9 of these. I need one of these in every room. I'm not joking. This is freaking awesome.
Well, if you've got a tower like that super workstation, you're going to shove that inside your desk or below your desk or in another room. And if you just run a Thunderbolt cable to this thing, it's got all the connectivity you need.
I'm serious. I want one of these on every desk. So we're going to start at the top here with the motherboards with the X99, and also on the bottom here we have the H170. Now, these are doing something very interesting with the Thunderbolt. They're using USB 3 Type C, or 3.1 Type C connectors. It's also Thunderbolt. So you plug it in, and then how the hell does that work? It just says, hey, I happen to be USB 3, let's start the polling and do the USB 3 thing. Yeah. Or hey, I'm Thunderbolt, let's just go right into the bus. Everybody get on the bus.
It's part of Intel's new standard where you've got the USB Type C connector, but it can carry lots of different signals. It can carry DisplayPort type signals, it can carry PCI Express type signals, it can carry USB type signals. That's kind of sort of part of Alpine Ridge, kind of sort of part of just the Intel platform experience, I guess, at this point. And these are new X99 motherboards with that feature. So these are sort of second generation X99, if you will. Now it's true that if you've got an X99 motherboard right now, you can put Broadwell E in it, but you're not going to get some of these advanced features.
Right, like U.2 on board, like the PLX chip that'll allow you to, I mean, the thing that's nice about this is you can get the inexpensive CPU and still run ridiculous SLI, because the PLX chip will allow you to run more than just the 28 lanes, which is your normal limitation. And they were telling us that, hey, if you get the inexpensive CPU and this motherboard, it's going to be cheaper. I mean, because this is an expensive motherboard, it's going to be cheaper than buying the expensive, like Extreme Series CPU, just to get the extra lanes. So you can get the extra lanes with this, and for a lot of gamers, this may be a reason to upgrade to X99.
Yeah, they have told us, we need to test this, but they have told us that this is an SLI 3-way certified from NVIDIA solution, that even if you're using a 28-lane PCI Express chip, because of the PLX chip, that any card on the market today, you can run it by 16 by 16 by 16 because of the PLX interface. Now, at home, you should be thinking, wait a minute, you said that the Thunderbolt 3 could carry DisplayPort graphics, but Broadwell E doesn't have built-in graphics. What's up with that? Check out the back panel. A DisplayPort input, which means that is going to be carried over that USB Type-C connector right below there. So if you've got your fancy 3-way or your fancy SLI system or whatever your adding graphics card is, you just run your DisplayPort cable out of that and up there, and then you can take it to one of the Thunderbolt breakout connectors or whatever you want to do. Another thing this generation from Gigabyte is that pretty much all of these motherboards have an integrated RGB controller. RGB lighting is apparently all the rage and selling motherboards like crazy, and so literally every motherboard we've seen at Computex that anybody has cared to show us, they have been like, oh my God, we've got an RGB lighting controller. It's like, yeah, but more PCI Express lanes, PLX, reinforced, this has got reinforced RAM slots, metal reinforced RAM slots.
Yeah, also the reinforced slots here for the PCI Express. And I think it's more important I mean, this is probably good, but it's probably more important down here because it'll add some rigidity to the slot.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, but everybody, literally, the first thing they tell us is RGB lighting. It's like, okay, sounds good.
It's like, what about U.2? What about the crazy, features with the PLX chip? What about the USB 3 and Thunderbolt? USB 3.1 Thunderbolt? No, RGB.
RGB.
Also the amp-up audio. We have that, and that's something we're also seeing just about all the way across the industry. People are putting amps on their motherboards to give you better audio, so you can run, headphones with a higher impedance. So that's really nice, and also just to give you a better audio quality in general. So we're seeing that on most of the high-end boards. Even on some of actually almost their entire line here has the amp-up audio. So
yeah,
lots of stuff going on with the audio too.
This particular one has two U.2 and M.2 underneath the shroud here. SATA Express, a ton of SATA connectivity. It's really, and you've got the heat pipe between the PCH heatsink and the VRM. And I know a lot of people in the audience are always like, does it have a heat pipe? And I didn't see it at first because it was kind of just tucked away out of the way there.
Well, a straight heat pipe is actually mathematically the best way to dissipate heat. So there's a bend up here, but it'll be doing a decent job there, and one heat pipe should do the trick.
This motherboard is the sort of bare naked version of the motherboard that we saw that had the 3 Intel SSDs in RAID 0. And so you can see the connectivity that you have here. You've got the M.2, you've got U.2, PCI Express. This is, of course, not X99, but they're still updating the Z170 Skylake platform with all the new bells and whistles, all the new USB, the Intel Alpine Ridge.
I guess a nice little shroud over here over the top of the I/O. They have it on all of those, all the top end boards. But it just improves the aesthetic, especially if you're doing something with a window.
Now, one unique feature of this motherboard, because it's got the two Thunderbolt connectors, the USB Type-C Thunderbolt. It's got also the DisplayPort input for a graphics card, so you can carry the built-in graphics card over one Thunderbolt connection, and you can carry the add-in graphics card over the other Thunderbolt connection.
I guess it gives you an option to have extreme, quote-unquote, integrated graphics. Even though it's an external, it still will act as the integrated.
Yeah, and I said with the dock that we were taking a look at earlier, where you've got the HDMI and the DisplayPort out on the dock, that if you're on a motherboard like this, where you've got an add-in graphics card and you're using the iGPU both, you can carry both of those to the two graphics outputs on the dock.
There's kind of a lot of ridiculous opportunities here with the integration of Thunderbolt 3 and the USB 3.1 as a singular port. That's very, very, very interesting.
Let's take a look at the more mid-range X99 motherboards, because these are sort of the top-end X99 and Z170 motherboards, and I think what they've done at the mid-range is also really interesting.
All right, so here we have some more X99 Gaming, and you know what? These are all about RGB, man. They're pretty much nothing other than RGB. No RGB controller over here. These are similar, except no PLX chip. So you're going to get as many lanes as your CPU provides. You won't be able to use the lowest end CPU and run 3 GPUs, but you can still run a couple.
Yeah, with the 28-lane CPU, you can still run two-way SLI, and there's just no PLX chip here. And the difference between the red motherboard and the orange motherboard is pretty much just down to it comes with built-in Wi-Fi. Both of them have the RGB lighting controller. Both of them have the metal reinforced RAM slots, metal reinforced PCI Express, the whole 9 yards. Now, you do actually get the slot on the motherboard that doesn't come with the wireless, so you can add in your own Bluetooth or add in your own NIC. It's got one Intel NIC and one killer NIC. Intel USB 3.1 Type-C, 115 dB signal-to-noise ratio on the built-in audio amplifier, and all the Gigabyte features that we've come to know and love.
Yeah, we got U2 and M.2 and pretty much everything on there. Pretty solid-looking boards, and I guess the aesthetic is something else that's going to be up to you guys.
They're actually running a demo over here on the G1 Gaming with the dual 980s at Doom. Doom is completely maxed out and is getting between 50 and 60 FPS, over 60 FPS if you're in one of the corridors.
I think it's interesting how the RGB is now the cool thing. Back in the day, it used to be like, hey, I got a new computer, let's just deck it out. And then everyone's like, no, let's be professional. And now it's kind of coming back, but it's like a professional way. Like, these look clean, even though it doesn't look like a carnival ride. That's what, back in the day, everything looked like a carnival ride. Like, step right up and ride my first PC. And now it's like...
And then the next PC is a beige box or a black box. Like, I don't fucking care. All right, so check it out. This is also just a quick mention. Gigabyte has got an XMP memory kit, 3600 megahertz on 8 DIMMs on X99. So we're running memory at 3600.
CPU Z scores, just to prove it. There you go. Those CPU Z scores should be the proof. Got a pretty good overclock going otherwise.
This thing is mind-blowingly clean. So we've got 2 reservoirs, 2 complete loops. One is for the CPU, one's for the graphics cards. And what's really awesome, this is actually a custom case. He's going to have it out at some point soon. This is a prototype, so it's actually kind of neat. It's got the Gigabyte motherboard in there. And these really snazzy graphics cards. EK water blocks? Okay, so you got EK water blocks. But the cabling on this is so clean. I mean, look at this. Symmetrical, it's clean, it runs out the back, and that's where the real magic happens. So let's swing around to the back side of this thing. So we got the cables coming here. They run underneath. This is the power supply, or this is the power connector for the motherboard. Runs all up underneath, channeled around down here. Here you got the power running up to the other connector, and all comes back into the power supply. Now these are channeled, and they've been basically routed out channels into the acrylic. So this has been carved out for the water channels. And then there's been another groove been carved out for the O-rings. They're not really O-rings, but the seals. And then they've been put in place on top so that you can actually, water comes in and out for the blocks, for the graphics cards, and for the CPU. It's actually pretty snazzy.
That is freaking clean, holy crap.
It was actually done with the really snazzy punch machines like we saw at the factories.
All right.
And it's like a $1,200 punch just for this little hex thing. I mean, I just think there's a problem here. But this is Pepsi. I mean, look at that. It's nice and blue and red.
Somebody really likes Pepsi. I didn't know Pepsi was a thing anymore.
I'm almost, after looking at the other one, this one just doesn't impress me as much. I mean, this is also a really thick piece of the water block here for the reservoir with the Pepsi logo, or the yin yang. I don't know. It looks like Pepsi to me. But the cabling is not
Pepsi. It's got to be.
It's got to be. The cabling isn't as snazzy to me. I mean, it's nice. but I like the other one. This is like a downgrade from that one. I don't even want to talk about this anymore.
The yin yang of Pepsi.
This is Ghostbusters. It's somewhere between Ghostbusters 1 and 2, because you've got, this is the museum director from Ghostbusters 2. You've got Dana down here as Zool. You've got Vince Clortho up here because it's no longer, yeah, it's Vince Clortho. You can tell because his shirt's all messed up. And we've got Winston, we've got Egon, we've got Ray down in the basement, and then we've got Venkman is sitting here in his chair. And you got Slimer, is the cab driver. Ecto 1's just kind of there. But this is an actual computer case. I mean, the water block is the slime goop in the basement here.
The Gigabyte people made this. This has not been made by any major case modder or whatever, like famous case modder. The guys at Gigabyte put this together. So it's been like sort of a fun project for them. Bins on the tubing here, I mean, they're ridiculous and excessive, but they totally match the style for Ghostbusters. So I really like how they've done that. And also we got that tiny little water block on there, but that looks also perfect for the style. Really, really cool looking. And then we can close it up when we're done. Let's go ahead and close it up here. And that's a computer case. I really want this. This is we need this.
With fire escape.
We need to build one of these for the office. This is awesome. Now I want to build a Lego case, but maybe not Ghostbusters. Maybe I don't know, Indiana Jones or something. I don't know.
That would be kind of awesome.
That's freaking cool.
I'm trying to figure out if this is actually from like the Avengers movie or from something else, but I just think it's a giant space fish.
We're out of touch with pop culture.
Whatever. Anyway, graphics card's here. CPU block is here. Pump, reservoir. Tubing is actually really nice. It fits the aesthetic. I almost didn't even realize that was a graphics card. And if it wasn't for the water cooling, I wouldn't have even known.
Yeah, something there is being water cooled. And then we have DisplayPort and DVI. Yep. So let's come around to the other side.
It's a forklift. It's where when you order more motherboards and they deliver them, they can just pick them up from the front door and bring them to your house, into your house. Except it's on an umbilical. When they get the battery pack for this thing, it'll be much more interesting.
All right, there we go. That's really pretty. Like all the yellow accents.
Yeah, I mean, I almost didn't even realize that it was the graphics card back there. But again, these things are really well done. I like them. The reservoir in the back looks like just a fuel pump for the.
Yeah, got the Thermaltake on. Using the Thermaltake parts for that. All the custom stuff.
The guy's talking about how the power switch is the steering wheel, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff that's in here.
Up here, obviously, they put the radiator and the fans. It just makes sense up here.
This is a Terminator-themed case.
All right, with the G1 Gaming going on here.
Because we got the minigun. It's Thermaltake, but I saw Terminator, Thermaltake, I don't know.
Thermalnator?
But then they've got Skylake, so it's not Skynet. We're all wrong. It's Skylake, not Skynet.
So Skylake and the Thermalnator. That's what's going on here.
And then we've got...
I like the paintwork that they did on this. It just looks like they put it on there and then use something like a metal brush to give it that texture.
Now this is the SSD, and this is the graphics card, and it's actually mounted to the back of the graphics card as the ammo pack for the minigun up top.
So we got water coming to the graphics card to keep it nice and cool. And then this is sort of a pad here to separate it from the graphics card, but it's pretty much mounted right on there. It's a very interesting look. Also an interesting way to use the space. So not bad.
The entire side of this case is the motherboard. So what's interesting about this, I think, is the power supply is in the back, the motherboard's actually on the outside, and then the rest of this, I'm just trying to figure out what's inside.
What the hell is inside there?
Nothing.
Probably just the servos and stuff to power this.
There you got your radiator. This thing is actually run by a small motor right here, which is just powered off of the motherboard, or powered off the power supply. And then there's some more fans in the back. I don't know. It's just cable management. It's really, the entire of this thing is just cable management.
There's lots of cables. And then we saw this, didn't we see this one at Wuhan?
We did.
Yeah, we'll take another quick look at it for you guys who didn't see our Wuhan case mod video, but just to be a quick look at this one because it's sexy.
This is Mlong, which basically means dragon. It's a really snazzy tank. 2 radiators, graphics card up top, machine sits inside, and it flies. It can fly. It's like a quadcopter.
If you pick it up and throw it, it'll fly like 5 or 10 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how strong you are. This is a sort of a sci-fi hangar. It's kind of interesting because They use a lot of Gundam themed things. So maybe I thought it was Titanfall verse. I don't know. It says Titans all over it. It says Gundam all over it. But just really ridiculous detail work all over this thing. Completely ridiculous detail work. And I also want to note that they didn't have to do much to change the 1080 that's up on top. Now, come on, take a look at the 1080 on top here. Its aesthetic sort of matches the case. They added a few little things on there, but they didn't have to do too much to put the 1080 right up on top, and that's mounted there. If you look at the inside of the case, pretty much just a hangar inside here. It's kind of strange they have a helicopter and the airplane, even though those aren't very sci-fi, but the rest of the thing looks pretty sci-fi. And then we're powering this all with a tiny little ITX motherboard right there from Gigabyte. So pretty interesting.
So we learned from Gigabyte that bricks is one of their really, really popular platforms, and so they're kind of expanding it. Check it out. This thing has a bricks machine at its core, but it has a full-size 980 graphics card. Not only that, if this thing starts to overheat, it automatically opens up kind of like a butterfly, and that increases the cooling. All of your connectivity and stuff is on the bottom here, and it's a bricks machine, but it's a bricks machine with a PCI Express port on the side so that you can plug in any graphics card or whatever you want to do. And when you really get to gaming, the top opens up automatically for better cooling.
I mean, really, with a lot of the modern games, the GPU is so much more important than the CPU. You may experience a slight bottleneck in some instances. Having a decent graphics card with a bricks machine is going to allow you to game, 1080p, possibly even 4K depending on your GPU.
And so if you're going to run this with like a VR setup, this is a really sexy machine to have for a VR setup. You can have it totally out of the way in the corner. And the cabling here on the front, you just have this little recessed thing. You can plug in your VR headset and then the cables will come out the front, or you can route them out the back.
One thing I do want to note is the clearance for a large DVI cable may not be there, but you can use, one of the DisplayPort to DVI if you have a 1440p monitor or something you're going to be running it to. But I envision this mostly being used with HDMI in the living room. But each person's going to be different. This may be the computer you want to put in your room and run it on your Korean 1440p monitor. It's up to you.
This one will actually hold two 2.5-inch drives, so you can put in 2.5-inch SSDs or 2.5-inch mechanical drives, whatever you want to do.
So on the back here we have a USB Type-C 3.1.
Yeah, USB 3.1 Type-C on the front here, HDMI, and then you've got your rear I/O on the back here.
We have two little areas there for that, so lots of connectivity options on that little guy. This one's a little bit bigger than a normal bricks. I would call this like a cinder block.
Now, the other cool thing is that it has two SODIMMs, so you can run dual channel, and it's got two M.2 slots in addition to the two 2.5-inch slots.
So having the full-size SODIMMs is kind of nice in a system this size. So
the other mind-blowing thing is that this tiny little thing is running these 4 displays.
There's some more bricks here. This is interesting. Look at this giant. This thing's like a giant heatsink, so it's going to be passive. This one going into the industrial world.
Yeah, you've got your micro SD slot here. You've got your serial I/O on the front, USB 3.1, built-in wireless, dual gigabit interface to HDMI. This is perfect for outdoor digital signage, that kind of thing, and that's where Gigabyte has found a lot of success. Now, the 4 display bricks, they also have an industrial version of that.
Yeah, there it is. So nice and slim, so you can, fit it in many different spots.
Totally passively cooled. The whole thing is basically a giant heatsink. The access panel door is for you to get at the drives. It's got a little different drive configuration and M.2 configuration, but you've got 4 mini DisplayPort connections on the front for running up to 4 displays, built-in wireless, USB 3.1, the whole 9 yards.
Hey, so you're always asking me, why do I care so much about storage, or why do we get these cases, and all I ask and I care about is storage and how many hard drives can fit. This is why. 60. This thing can fit 60 3.5-inch drives. 60.
This is going to be your desktop. Not even, it won't have a NAS with 100.
Yeah, exactly. This thing can fit 60 3.5-inch drives. If we put these things in like 2.5-inch drive bays, you know how many more it would fit in here?
Probably double at least.
Lots more. Lots more. Do you have any idea how much storage that is? No, because I don't even. My math stopped working when I hit 60.
200 terabytes? This is Amazon S3 entirely right here in one box.
Yeah, that's actually not far from the truth.
Not really, but
That's not far from the truth. It's all of this. This is Amazon AWS, all of it. It's one of these.
Ooh! A booth visit would not be complete without the 1080, and this is the brand new WindForce with the ridiculous cooling unit on it. It's also 2.5 slots. What's different about this? Well, we have 3 100mm fans. The one in the middle is doing something a little weird. What is that doing? You see that? It's a fan stack. We were joking around about this the other day. It is actually a fan stack. Like, lean this up to the light a little bit. See that? There's actually There's actually a fan on top of a fan. It's a patent-pending technology there, and you got huge. You see that beneath that we have the, the fins. This is an aluminum shroud on the outside, all aluminum except for the plastic right here to complete the ID. Sort of an aggressive look, very spaceship-like. I don't know. Now we also have the heat pipes going through there. As you can see, plenty of copper heat pipes. They look to be about 8 millimeters. Those are some fat heat pipes. Large copper plate over here. So bent fins that'll also help to keep these things nice and cool.
I think they're fancy.
So they're. God damn it. You know what? Let's look at what else is special on this one. Look at the back. Check that out. We have 2 HDMI ports, and that's going to be routed to your front panel in case you're, doing VR or something like that. So a lot of VR on, focus on these cards. We got a back panel too. Ooh, look at that back panel. 2 8-pin connectors, by the way. Over here we have our display port. We have several of those, 3 of those. HDMI 2. I believe it's 2.0 A or B, I forget. And then dual link DVI. Dual 8-pin, yes. Let's look at this plate. The back plate, they've done something interesting here. I've seen some of the custom back plates, but this one, if you wanted to do custom cooling, you would normally have to take off the entire back plate. But look at this right here, just beneath or just on, the back of the cork. So this thing's also going to be fully RGB. With the logo stuff that's going to light up over there. We'll show you one in the system in just a second. I'm just manhandling this PCI Express on the bottom because let me drop it in the floor and then I'll just say thanks to my sponsor, which is some other company, and get out of here. So yeah, it should be a nice, cool card. They don't know the overclock yet, what it's going to be. They also didn't know what the power phases were. How many power phases?
How cool is it? Is it going to be like 45 or like 43 degrees?
I'm betting it's going to get up to 70-something, 60-something. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
That's not very cool then.
We're going to need to get a review unit in and play with this. There you go. You can see that RGB lighting there. I want you to notice that it's also matched up here with the mouse, so you have control over RGB for your system here. And even the keyboard over here. Oh, this is a nice keyboard, brushed aluminum. It's quite nice. That's Gigabyte. So guys, that's pretty much it. Gigabyte has so much ridiculous stuff. I'm kind of thinking about one of those X99 boards right now just because I like the fact that you can do USB 3.1C and Thunderbolt. A lot of different options. Now it's time to just hang out and check out this view.